What do you call a witch that's lost in the Alakir Desert? A sand witch. What's going on, YouTube? An exciting update for you is that this is the last video that will be made in this room. I'm moving into an entirely new studio. I'm very excited for that because it'll be significantly more open space. It's significantly easier for me to pilot, but more importantly, it is after 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means we have 3 vendors that have refreshed. Most notoriously, we have our first one inside the Infinite Archive, inside of Apocrypha, a free-to-play area, and restart with Filer Ul. Well, apparently we start with sitting down. We start now with Filer Ul, who has the Tonal Resonator. Now, the Tonal Resonator is part of the Ebon Dwarf mount. Now, the Ebon Dwarf mount is one of the cooler mounts in the game, but I will tell you, it's a bit of a jaunt to get all of it. And this one is from a group delve boss. It is inside of Craglorn, which is kind of like a mini dungeon. It's probably like on the difficulty equivalent of like Fungal Grotto 1. I will warn you that there's a significant amount of pieces here, but this is not one that I would encourage you to purchase for 5,000 archival fortunes. This next one is a hilarious mythic because, fun fact, this one took me forever to go out and get, and that is the Bull's Head Gallery Rail. Now, this comes from Fargrave dailies. Now, dailies are notoriously ones that you usually don't want to have to roll for. You can only do a certain amount per day. Even if you have multiple characters, you're still capped. And for me, this was an exceptionally annoying lead. However, for you watching, I have some saving grace for you because this mythic is hot buns. And not cross buns, just straight buns. Not the buns that you would ever want to use. So, thankfully, not a mythic that you need to go out and purchase. But if you're for some reason like me and you're like, wow, I want to make a really cool thematic Zeus build that uses a bull, because I thought, you know, bulls, Zeus, Greek mythology, it would be cool. Plus, I just like testing out mythics. Then you could purchase this, but you're probably not in that scenario. Next up is a fun one, just for the simple fact that, yes, this is a 15,000 archival fortunes style page shoulder that is bound to you. And you're like, how much money could I be saving? Well, potentially 40,000 gold or 5 million gold. There's no in between, and these are the only 2 listings. So it's just kind of funny how on opposite ends of the spectrum these items are. But you can see there's really not been a lot of listing average price value. And then recently we had somebody list it for quite a bit, which then affected the actual supply and demand. But you can see here over time, there's a consistent amount of listings and the suggested highs and lows are relatively cheap, you know, around 80,000 gold and even dropping as low as to 40,000 gold. It's only this outlier right here. It's really affecting the listing average. So I would just purchase this for, you know, the 40,000 gold price point here. I do think it looks cool. It's just one of those acquired tastes, probably not worth 15,000 archival fortunes, even if you are a big grinder. Next up, we have a Solitude armchair. This does not look very comfy. This looks like if you sat in it for too long, your back would just blow out. Then we have the Dark Elf Thurible Caged? Thurible Caged? I don't know. I've never seen that word before in my entire life, but it's only worth 16,000 gold. It's a lighting source, but it doesn't really look like it produces any sort of lighting. So it doesn't seem like something that would really be, the juice is not worth the squeeze there. We have the Druidic Statue Planter. Now this one does have a little bit more value. I don't know what you would do with this in your house. You could get a whole bunch of these and make it look like you had a little cult thing going on, you know, Children of the Corn style, but not one that also has a lot of value. Again, these are bound when you purchase them, so you're not reselling these for gold. The value is going to come from you potentially either selling these in the future, like the pre-made items, or if you're getting any sort of just intrinsic value from owning the BP because you're a collector. Rivenspire treasure maps are an easy skip. Heavy equipment armor is interesting because there's 3 really good ones that you can roll for. Most people want tanking companions, getting reduced cooldowns, getting increased max health, reduced damage taken. All of those could be pretty good. We have our cat joining us here after she's like, I'm going to knock out all of the keyboards first. But one to consider, I definitely think for most players, if you're trying to roll for a thick, juicy companion, especially if you have Bastion, he needs some purpose in life. We have some books of Feast Among the Dead, Chapter 1, and then we have Daedric Dossier, the Titans. I do actually think the Dossiers are really cool. Especially from somebody who used to play Ark Survival Evolved, but you know, it's up to you whether or not you want to buy books with archival fortunes. I would generally recommend that you just buy them from the other vendors with gold. Then we have Force, Heroism, Mitigation, Cavalier's Charge. As always, Heroism to me the juice is worth the squeeze if you're in a situation where you're like, I need to make a PvP build, or I need heroism for this big thing coming up. I have to spend archival fortunes. To me, that's fine, because Force, Mitigation, Cavalier's Charge, I actually think those are pretty cool scripts. The problem is that it's just you're using a premium currency. It's almost like you're spending your crowns. Not quite to that level, but it takes a long time to get these archival fortunes, and you may do a single daily quest, which you might be doing already right now because of the solstice stuff going on, or you might just be farming certain things in combination with the Halloween event. I just don't think it's worth going out and purchasing individual scripts except for very, very niche scenarios. So this is the only one that I would even consider in that scenario. We have Regeneration of Lilac Purple. 25,000 TLDR is a huge investment. That is more, just for context, than an entire style page, which could be worth multi-millions in gold. You'd be saving yourself off the market. Not worth it, in my opinion, at all. Then we have the archival maps, which again, these bad boys you can already get in the archival fortunes, just by, or you can already just get in the Infinite Archive as is. And then we have the Remnant of Cruelty. Now, this bad boy does retail for about 10K gold. So you're having 1,000 archival fortunes turned to about 10K gold. The only problem is that if a bunch of people were to go out and purchase a bunch of these, that you would flood the market with them and you would not be able to move as many of them. But I did do some testing. It's not bound. So sometimes they sell these bad boys bound, sometimes they're unbound. So if you are interested, you could buy these and try to convert some archival fortunes to gold at a ratio of 1 to 10, which is a pretty good ratio in my opinion, because you're not requiring any loot boxes. Should you do that? It kind of depends on, if you're interested in, trying to kind of gamble a little bit, because if enough people do this on a mega server, it's going to tank the price significantly. And if you're curious, this is kind of the gist of what you do. You kind of whip out a sword and you're like, hey-ya! Echo of Abolisher. This is a memento, so you would not be able to do this in Cyrodiil, but you can do this pretty much everywhere else. It actually looks pretty cool, and that's why it has a little bit of value to it. So kind of worth it, just really depends on how many people are gambling on this item being worth actually close to that 10K price point, how many people are interested in purchasing it. But overall, it's definitely a decent gamble if you're trying to make some gold. And next up, we're inside the Scholarium, which is inside of Ivea, which if you've never been here before is going to be over here. This is also a free-to-play area. All of these are now free-to-play for those of you who might be new to this. And if you go down and talk to this bad Mamma Jamma, the items at the bottom are all rotational except for one, which is static. We have Evasion, Shock Damage, Assassin's Misery, and Class Mastery. Now, these are all, to me, ones that you should consider purchasing. I would recommend having one character that has every single script on it. So any script you don't currently have, I would go out and purchase it on that character. Get the achievements done, get all the little side achievements done. Any of these that should be good across universal characters, a character you might be developing, to me, is Shock Damage is the one that stands out to me. Shock Damage, unlike Frost, and unlike Frost and then Fire Damage, it kind of sees not as much play when it comes to actually using the script. A lot of people, I think, are really, interested in building around like a Frost Warden or a Fire DK and subclassing all the little things in it. But you could just as easily make something really cool with like a Shock Sorcerer. It doesn't see as much play, but I do think it's actually pretty good. And I have a build that will be utilizing this. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that. But overall, the important thing to note here is that yes, Shock Damage is decent. And if you think you're going to build like an AoE Shocky Boy, definitely consider picking up the script. But if you don't have these scripts on a character, I would have one character, your main boy, that's got all these unlocked. And finally, we're inside the Imperial City sewers. Now, these bad boys also a free-to-play area. Been actually for quite a while now. And the TLDR merchant here has some items for us that also rotate every Tuesday. If you need help finding these bad boys, ESOhelper.com, our website, helps you find any of these bad Mamma Jammas, find additional information on them. We start with Night Slayer, and it gives you max Magicka, weapon and spell health. Your fully charged heavy attacks deal an additional 8% of an enemy's maximum health as Oblivion damage. This can deal a maximum of 80,000 Oblivion damage. So a set like this could be really cool to build. I'm sure a lot of you are thinking heavy attack builds. The only issue is it's 2 through 4 is not very synergistic for what you probably would consider more so a PvE build. A lot of heavy attack builds generally lean towards more PvE content, solo type content, and a fully charged heavy attack that's only going to deal 8,000 Oblivion damage at maximum it's decent, but it's not as going to be as good as some of the other, heavy attack staples that we see. The problem is this set also cannot crit. So Oblivion damage can't crit, which is also its own set of problems. And so you might think, okay, what if I want to use this as, like, for example, a PvP build? Well, the problem is that to get the maximum benefit of this set, you need someone with 80k health. That's going to be pretty problematic. So the problem is this set, like, it does some cool things, but it doesn't really synergize with anything. If this was like fire damage, we'd be on to something. If magic damage, we could synergize this with some other things we got going on. The issue is that it's Oblivion damage. So this set is definitely unique. You could build this as a heavy attack build, but I would have to give it like a 7. There's just so many better heavy attack options out there that I wouldn't consider this one really in your kind of main repertoire of heavy attack builds. Next up is another PvP set, because spoiler, these are all PvP sets, is Swift. Now, Swift is max mag, armor, reduced damage taken from players by 10%. Now, you can see this one actually has a TC average of pretty good value. That generally means that the set is definitely better. Now, it's not always, like that, because some sets are just more often purchased in gold. And this does not take into consideration the quality. It could be blue, purple, gold. The average is the average. So why is this set so popular? Well, mitigating damage from players is just a popular archetype, and it's going to scale with all of your other mitigations that you have going on. Your potentates, your major, your minor resolve, your major, your minor protections. All of those things are going to stack together. You could 3-bar this and have a really beefcakey back bar and just have a more unique front bar. It either does more damage or gives you a different type of buff to where you could be a little bit more offensive and then go back to your back bar and be a little bit more defensive. There's just so many ways that you could build this in a fun little way. And I think that's why it sees pretty decent value. I mean, you're going to see this set utilized. I'll give it a 10 out of 10 in the sense that it is niche in what it does. It's one of the only sets that has the line of text, reduced damage taken from players. There's very few sets that do that. It's one of the best ones that does it. I'm going to give it a 10, but I don't think the majority of you should use this set for PvP, just to be clear. The meta does not usually support players running a set like this unless they're trying to build a very, very specific way that I would not encourage somebody that's getting into PvP to even attempt. Next up is an exceptionally annoying lead. It is the Hecatomb Tacits. Now, this comes from the Imperial City sewer bosses. So probably one of the least fun things that a solo player or even just players in general can farm. They're really annoying to get. They're very powerful. You could get, night bladed, sniped. All sorts of things could go wrong, and all you're getting is a decent support mythic. So as far as the lead goes, it's one of the most annoying leads to get. Bloodlord's Embrace, I think, is pretty good, especially if you're a new tank who's just trying to get better at, sustaining, making sure that you've got decent resources still available to use. I think Bloodlord's Embrace is definitely one that most tanks should own as a mythic. I think as you get into higher tier content, you're probably not going to utilize it nearly as much. Next up is a mythic that is near and dear to my heart, is the Weighted Spiked Bridge. Now, this bad mamma jamma comes from Rewards of the Worthy, and that could be either very good or very bad. So generally, I lean towards you're getting this already from players that have TLDR. If you had TLDR, you probably are opening Rewards of the Worthy. But if you want to make a PvP build that requires Death Dealer's Fee, it's like the chicken or the egg. You need the mythic to get the build that allows you to get the Rewards of the Worthy. But in that scenario, you may not have TLDR. So what this does, it's very straightforward. The longer you're in combat, the higher your total resources become. Maximum stamp, health, magicka increase as you're in combat. It's a fantastic mythic. It does have some really annoying ones to get lead wise, but I will tell you that this one is one of the more annoying ones. But I will tell you, you are going to have to do some other really annoying things in here, including Dragonstar Arena Final Chest and the Imperial City upstairs bosses, which in my opinion are easier to get than the downstairs bosses, but still very annoying nonetheless. I will just tell you that I absolutely love this mythic. It is not currently in favor with a lot of PvP builds. You can certainly still make a max stat builds, but max stat builds have kind of sunken down as we are in the meta of crazy crit damage and crit bursts and bursting with our skills. I do definitely think we'll see a return to form. Two mythics like this is definitely one that I think you should own if you really like max stat wardens, max stat sorcerers, and I definitely think we'll see a big return to them in the future. But in the meantime, it is still a great mythic that you can utilize for, that PvP content. You can also use it as a solo mythic, but generally it's going to be in that PvP max stat archetype. I love it. It was my favorite. It's my most used mythic of all time. But that being said, I will tell you, it's annoying as hell to get. Vardenfell treasure maps don't have enough juice for the squeeze if you're going out into Vardenfell. Unfortunately, there's just not enough good sets to drop from there, which is ironic because the sets are actually pretty good. They're just not worth a lot of gold these days. Other drops there are just not going to, make up the difference for 6,000 Telvar. We have ourselves the rings of the set that we talked about earlier. Then we also have some scripts. We have Berserk, Protection, Taunt, Anchorite's Cruelty. These are some really fantastic scripts in my opinion. Protection, Anchorite's Cruelty, Taunt is definitely one that I think is really cool to have just in general if you're making a support character. Berserk, maybe, probably not. But most players who have Telvar are not going to be really super interested in most of these scripts. So that's where I think it's just too much of an investment. Do your daily quests. None of these are really essential for any sort of specific, 10 out of 10 best in slot builds. I think really the only script that you're going to see in that type of content is generally around heroism and heroism generation. And thankfully, it's already in there for the Archival Fortunes vendor. So I wouldn't really consider any of these worth your Telvar currency. Now, next up is one that might actually interest a lot of you, and it's the Fragment of the Maw. Now, this bad boy comes from a trial. As you can see, it comes from the trial final boss, and it's actually on a pretty popular skill, that being Force Shock. So if you want to go farm MOL, you can certainly do that. But if you want to skip that and get, a piece towards getting this really cool skill style here, which is on a pretty popular skill of that being Force Shock, you're going to be knocking out the hardest of the fragments here. I will tell you though, obviously you're going to do some other stuff, Bedlam Vale, Tempest Island, but pretty much everything outside of the trial is going to be relatively straightforward. Bedlam Vale is probably the second hardest thing on here, and we've actually seen that fragment a few times pop up. So if you're somebody who's very trial averse, which I know my audience, there's quite a few of you, and you also are collectors, this is a great opportunity to get this. The only downside is 50,000 Telvar is a huge order. It's hard to gauge how much of a currency is worth not doing another type of currency, like how much Telvar am I going to spend to not farm a trial, is really hard to gauge, especially if you're a player who doesn't like to join and do group content, which is totally fine. 100% understand. Everybody's got different opinions on the type of content they do and don't like to do. It's just hard to put a price value on something like that. So I definitely think this item is worth considering depending on the type of content that you're into and what you like to collect. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. The best items this week were definitely our heroism script, which is worth considering if you've got a ton of Archival Fortunes you want to throw around. The Fragment, which you can convert to 10,000 potential gold if the market doesn't become too flooded with it. Then we saw some interesting Imperial City items. We have a actual fragment that drops from a trial, which again is going to be a guaranteed drop, so you only have to really farm it one time, but a trial is still a trial. Most people are like, Jake, not interested. And then we saw a Death Dealer's Feet lead, which, as we know, Death Dealer's Feet is one of the most popular mythics in the game because the Sorcerer archetype is one of the most popular PvP archetypes in the game. But it is only one of a few pieces that are very annoying to get, meaning that if you have that piece, you pretty much have to go out and get the other annoying ones. You're going to be farming Dragonstar Arena. My poor boy David's been farming it for 12 hours and has not seen the other lead drop, but I'm pretty sure that he got it to drop one time and then let it expire. So do not feel bad for David. David brought it upon himself. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. I'm going to get back to work here and finish moving this studio downstairs. It's been such an exciting journey. I'll have a video on that and some other fun giveaway and stuff as well. Thank you guys so much again. As always, we're doing a quick 3 giveaway drawings. All you need to do to enter is like the video / leave a comment on the video. Second thing is just make sure you subscribe for the second drawing. We are less than 100 subscribers away from our next 1,000 goal. Please hit the subscribe button. And the third thing is look for a hidden word to be put on the video. If you're the first person to find and comment that word, you will win. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.